Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mark Roden, and in today's video we're going to be going over the top 25 of them, yes, that's a lot of cars, I know, best tuner cars for less than $10,000. Now realistically, a lot of these cars you can find for under $5,000, some of them you can even find for under $3,000, but some of them are up there closer to the $10,000 mark, and I didn't want to lie to you guys, so yes, the title and everything about this video is based around $10,000, but again, if you're even on more of a stricter budget, don't worry. This video's got you covered as well, because most of them, bring it in. Most of them are under $5,000 as well. Anyway, yeah, that's what we're doing today. Tuner cars. What do you classify as a tuner car, Mark? A car where its stock horsepower number doesn't mean anything, because you can get that car's horsepower number up to a very decent amount relatively easily with relatively low amounts of money. That's what a tuner car is. It's actually the dictionary definition. It's actually super polished. So before you go in the comment section saying, wow, this guy's definition makes no sense, shut up. It's actually the Merriam-Webster dictionary definition. So anyway, without further ado, let's go right into it with number 25. And that car's going, I'm gonna make some people upset. It's not the best, but it's the Toyota Mark II GX100. Let me explain. This car does not have the best motor for tuning potential. It comes with a 2.5 liter inline six, making 200 horsepower, and it is rear wheel drive. And that motor is a naturally aspirated Toyota motor. And if we know anything, we know naturally aspirated Toyota motors do not handle power all that well. It's the turbo ones that you want out of those, especially the 90s turbos. And this car really isn't the best for that either, but it's such an iconic, just little drift car, and it doesn't need that much horsepower to be a good drift car that I felt like it deserved to be on the list somewhere. 24th. However, is going to be going to the Subaru Forester XT second generation. The XT, in my opinion, has slightly cooler body trim pieces on it, but if you're going to change that around anyways, it doesn't matter. The car comes with a 2.5 liter flat four, making 165 horsepower, and it is all-wheel drive. It's the same EJ motor that's in all the early 2000s Subarus. It's the same motor where if you add boost to it, the head gaskets tend to go boom. It's that little emote at the end of friggin' Call of Duty Black Ops 6 now, where people give you the thumbs up and then they're like, pew, and do it to the thumbs down. That's pretty much what it is once you start to add boost. But before that, it is a good motor. And since the motor's in relatively light cars, I know the Forester isn't one of those, but it's usually pretty good. 23rd is going to an underrated one that I've talked about a couple times on my channel, but I feel like nobody else talks about it on their channel. It's the Scion TC second generation. The second gen Scion TC comes with a wonderful 2.5 liter inline four, making 179 horsepower, and it was front wheel drive. And I know what people are going to say, it's a Camry motor. And at the end of the day, it is just a Camry motor. But even Toyota saw the potential of this motor and was offering Toyota Racing Development parts aftermarket. Well, not aftermarket, they're technically OEM. Would you call that OEM or aftermarket? They're in-house tuning companies, so I don't know what it would classify as. Either way, they were offering parts to make your Scion TC faster. Like that's such an obvious tuner move. 22nd, however, is going to be going to another naturally aspirated Toyota, the Lexus GS300. Now, obviously, the IS300 and the SC300 are also very good cars, and spoiler alert, there might just be one of those later on the list, okay? But the GS300 is relatively cheaper than those. It comes with a 3 liter inline six, making 225 horsepower, and it is rear wheel drive. The reason why it's so much cheaper than the IS300 and the SC300 is because it's got an auto, and it's only available in auto, and it's heavier than those other two. So because of that, people don't like buying these for sports car purposes. But if you are fine with the extra weight, maybe you'll cut a couple pounds and you don't mind doing a manual swap, it's got a 2J, man. And I know it's a naturally aspirated 2J, so it's not nearly as good as a GTE, but it's still a 2J. 21st place is a bit of an obvious one, and that's kind of the reason why it's here at the number 21 spot. The Nissan 240SX S13. Over here in the old United States of America, these came with the KA, which is a 2.4 liter inline four, making 145 horsepower, and it is rear wheel drive. The KA is not the best motor out there in terms of making power, but since it's in such a lightweight car, it does tend to shine pretty well. Like, you can get these things up to 300 horsepower, and while 300 horsepower isn't anything super crazy, in a car like an S13 that only weighs like 2,800 pounds, it's actually not that bad at all, and that's pretty much what you're looking at when you're looking at an S13. Coming in at 20th place, however, breaking its way into the top 20, is going to be going to the Mitsubishi Eclipse GT 2G, or the second generation Mitsubishi Eclipse GT. It's pretty much a front wheel drive watered down version of the GST or the GSX. It's relatively similar. It comes with a 2-liter turbo inline 4 making 210 horsepower, and it is front wheel drive. That is a watered down version of the 4G, but it is very watered down. I want to make that really clear. A lot of people think that just because it's got the 4G tag, it's exactly the same motor as a 4G63T from the Evos, and it's not. It's got some missing components for sure, but it is a really good tuner car. It's unfortunate that it's front wheel drive, and you can find a GSX under 10K, but I wanted to find a GT for under 5K. I thought that would make more sense. 19th place is one that, even though it's been out for like 11 years now, it's been out for even longer than that. Wow, because it came out in 2009, I think, or maybe 2010. It's been out for a long time, though. People are still not talking about it. It's the Hyundai Genesis Coupe BK1, in particular the 2.0T, because the 2.0T comes with a 2-liter turbo, inline 4, making 210 horsepower, and it is rear-wheel drive. That is the BK1. The BK2 does make more power than that, and you can find a BK2 2.0T for under 10K, but again, I'm trying to go for the cheapest options, and the BK1 2.0T is like 5K, and that's all really good. But these cars are decent for making power since they're already boosted from factory. They are heavier, and that is the main problem with Genesis Coupes, is even though if you do get good power out of them, the car's so heavy that doesn't really put the power to good use. But if you can find a way to cut that power down, it's a good tuner car, man. I just realized I said cut that power down, not the power, the weight. Cut that weight down. Either way, 18th place is going to a car that you don't need to cut that weight down on because it's so light. The Mazda RX-7 FC. The FC stands for freaking crabs, because the guy that made this car hated crabs. He was Sheldon Plankton from SpongeBob. He was just like, God, I hate that guy. Either way, the car comes with a 1.3-liter 2-rotor rotary engine, making 160 horsepower in its rear-wheel drive. Say what you want about rotary engines, they are good at making some power for relatively cheap. Are they reliable doing that? Absolutely not. You give it plus 2 horsepower and the car's going to do backflips. It's just not the best thing out there, but it can make power. 17th place, up until this point, every single car that we've talked about, I believe, every single car that we've talked about up to this point was of Asian descent. I was going to say Japanese, but there was a Hyundai in there. But it was of Asian descent, and this is the first car that's not Asian, the BMW 328i E36. It comes with a 2.8-liter inline 6, making 190 horsepower, and it is rear-wheel drive. Is the motor as good as the M3's motor? Obviously not, but it's still a straight 6 from BMW. It's not that hard to make power out of it. Is it going to do it reliably? That's what I have to say about that. I don't know. But for those that are going to be like, well, it's a German car, it's not a tuner. Buddy, that's not what tuner means, okay? That's just dumb. It's ignorant. Coming in at 16th place is another car that's not Japanese or Asian or Chinese or Zimbabwean, because it's the Ford Focus ST, partner. A Ford, yes, a Ford. An American car can be a tuner. You guys should know what a tuner means, but I just want to make it really clear for the people that think that tuner automatically means it has to be Japanese. Either way, the Ford Focus ST comes with a 2-liter turbo inline 4, making 252 horsepower in its front wheel drive. It is a tuning monster. You get some simple bolt-on mods for a Focus ST, and it's close to 350 horsepower, and that's relatively good in a car that doesn't weigh that much. 15th place, however, we are going to go back to Japan. We're going to go back to Japan real quick for a second, because we're going to be talking about the Infiniti G35 Coupe. And unlike the Focus ST, this bad boy is heavy. These cars weigh about as much as a 350Z, which is, I think, 3,800 pounds. They're heavy cars, but it's okay because they come with a 3.5-liter V6, making 286 horsepower, and they are rear-wheel drive. That's the highest horsepower number we've talked about so far, but again, it is the heaviest car we've talked about so far. These cars are very heavy. But VQs, again, say what you want about them. I know that, VQ35s, people don't like the sound of them, whatever. They can make decent power for what they are, especially if you get an HR. The HR will have 306 horsepower, though. It'll be a little bit more expensive. But either way, if you get an HR, you can make some relatively easy, cheap power out of them. 14th place, however, is going to one of those instances where the engine itself isn't actually the best at making power, but it's in such a good car that it doesn't really matter. It's the Mazda Miata NB. The NB Miata is pretty much the same thing as the NA Miata, and I like the NB slightly better right now. I think it's such a better deal. They're pretty much the same price, and the NB is just a much more modern version of the car. It comes with a 1.8-liter inline 4, making 135 horsepower, and it is rear-wheel drive. Now, obviously, again, the 1.8-liter Miatas aren't the best for making power. People know that. It's not a surprise, but since the Miatas weigh so freaking little, 2,300 pounds in an NB, I believe, maybe even less than that, it doesn't matter. If you get this car up to 200 horsepower, it feels like a lot. Coming in at 13th is, in my opinion, the better version of the GS300, the Lexus IS300. The IS300 is one of the cars that I'm thinking about buying, not next, but like as the next project car for the channel, I should say, because you guys want to see it, and they are just really good cars. They come with a 3-liter inline 6, making 225 horsepower, and they are rear-wheel drive. They're quite literally the same setup as a GS300. So why do I put the IS300 so much higher? Well, for 2 reasons. One, this car can be found with a factory manual, and yes, you can find one under 10K still. That's obviously really good. But also 2, it has a much shorter wheelbase, and it's much lighter than a GS300. Both those things matter a lot when talking about racing and stuff, and so in my opinion, this is just the overall better car for tuning purposes. 12th position, we are hitting a long list of Japanese cars here because it's the Honda Civic EG. It's no surprise to absolutely anybody that a Civic was going to make this list, and this one is the EG. I do believe I do have one more Civic on the list, so spoiler alert, yes I do. It's a 5th generation Civic. It's probably the slowest out of factory, but that's not what you're looking at. It comes with a 1.5 liter inline 4, making only 100 horsepower in its front wheel drive. Again, that power number is super low, and it is a D series motor, and the D series motors aren't that great at making power. So you may be asking yourself, well then how's it a good tuner car? Because you can put any Honda motor in this car and make insane power in a car that's so light that every power number matters a lot. And I know what you're going to say. Well, you're swapping the whole engine. If you can swap engines, and there's a lot of good cars. You can't swap the engines as cheap as you can Hondas. You can find a Honda engine for like 200, 300 bucks, dude. That's like as much as an exhaust system for my 350Z was. But barely missing out on the top 10 is finally not a Japanese car with the Volkswagen GTI Mark V. GTIs are obvious tuning monsters at this point. Like they have grounded themselves in reality as a tuning legend. They come with a 2-liter turbo inline 4, making 200 horsepower in its front wheel drive. Again, another car kind of like the Focus ST, where simple bolt-ons will do the trick, and it'll do it reliably, which is finally really good. A lot of the cars we've talked about so far, I've had to say, oh, well, it can make power, but it probably won't do it that reliably. The Mark V GTI is one of those cars where it can make power, and it will do it reliably. Thank God. But breaking its way into the top 10 is going to the wonderful Volvo S60R. A lot of you guys love the S60R. Every video that I talk about the S60R, and you guys are like, oh, God. Your eyes pop out of your head, your jaws hit the floor, then your tongue slowly rolls out and it reveals like a red carpet type thing because you guys love this car so much. They come with a 2.5 liter turbocharged inline 5, making 300 horsepower, and it's all-wheel drive. That's an insane horsepower number, so I know what you're thinking. Oh, well, it's got to be heavy. It's definitely heavier than some of the cars we talked about so far, but it's not a heavy car. And the 300 horsepower is easily can be changed with a turbo. It's got a turbo motor from factory, and it's a straight inline 5 motor. Like, it's such a good car for building power. Okay, now I know what you're thinking. You're seeing that sign up at the top left of the corner, and you're saying Ford Mustang. That's not a tuner car. In my opinion, it kind of is. It's the Ford Mustang GT New Edge, which comes with a 4.6 liter V8, making 260 horsepower, and it is rear-wheel drive. But it's like the lightest. I think maybe the Fox body was lighter. I don't know exactly, but it's one of the lightest Mustangs of all time. It's more of a tuner car in my opinion than it is a muscle car. It just looks so tunery. You know what I'm saying? And then that V8. It's not obviously as good as like an LS, which is the reason why people swap LSs into it, but it's still a good motor to build some power on, especially if you turbo them. Like, you got some power out of it. 8th place. 8th position is going to my baby, the car that I own, the Acura Integra GSR. Now, I do own an LS, not a GSR, unfortunately. I'm a poor boy. I don't get, no, I'm just a poor boy from a poor neighborhood. That is me. I don't own a GSR. But you can find a GSR for under 10K easily, and they come with a 1.8 liter inline 4, making 170 horsepower in their front wheel drive. They have more power out of factory, they have more tuning potential out of factory, and they have better suspension out of factory than an LS does. But again, if you're on a budget like I was, an LS will do the trick just fine. They're B series motors too, so you don't have to swap them. You can very easily make good power out of these motors without swapping them. They're just really good motors overall for making power out of it. I should know. I have an Integra, and I've had it for like a year now, and I haven't done a single power mod to it. 7th place is another one where people are probably going to be upset at me because they're going to be like, that's not a tuner. That shouldn't count as a tuner. In my opinion, it does. Like, how is an LS not a tuner motor? Just because it's a big V8? It's the best tuner motor of all time. It's the Chevy Camaro 4th gen, for those who don't know, or the Catfish Camaro. They come with a 5.7 liter V8, making 285 horsepower, and they are rear wheel drive. Again, I know the Catfish Camaro is not that great looking, and it's a muscle car, so people are probably going to be like, it doesn't count as a tuner. But in my opinion, it's just as much of a tuner as any of the other cars on this list. The LS is such a good motor for making insane power that I had to include it. Sixth position is going to one of the best cars out there for tuning while it lasts, but it doesn't last very long. The Audi S4 B5. The S4 B5, everybody knows, is a great tuner car, but is also a very unreliable car. They come with a 2.7 liter twin turbo V6, making 250 horsepower, and they are all-wheel drive. V motors just tend to be a little bit more unreliable than inline motors. I guarantee if Audi made this car with an inline 5, people would have been so happy with this thing. It probably would have been so reliable too. But the V6 TT 2.7 liter, it is a beast. Coming in at 5th place, however, is going to another one of the like hatchback tuners. There's a lot of those nowadays. A lot of modern like tuner cars are hatchbacks. I don't know why, but either way, it's the Mazda Speed 3. The Mazda Speed 3 comes with a 2.3 liter turbo inline 4, making 263 horsepower, and it is front wheel drive. Let me explain something to you. A car that's only available in manual transmission is a tuner car through and through. Cobb, every single Mazda Speed 3 out there has a Cobb access port to it. For some reason, they love Cobb. These things are absolute beast, easy to make power. There's a guy that lives like a couple towns away from me, 450 horsepower Mazda Speed 3. He drives it to work every single day. It takes that 450 horsepower abuse every day, perfectly fine. It has no problems. Like they're such good cars. But what's better than an inline 4 from Mazda? An inline 4 from Honda, duh, because 4th place is going to the Acura RSX Type S. It is just truly just such a, oh my god, tuner car. It has the best motor out there. It comes with a 2-liter inline 4 making 201 horsepower, and it is front wheel drive. That 2-liter inline 4 may not sound like anything crazy. You might not be writing a letter to mom yet, but get your pens out, get ready, okay, because it's a K-series. K-series, in case you don't know, are just like, they're like the holy trinity of motors. It's like you got K-series, 2Js, or the JZ series, I should say, in general, just whatever. And then the N5X, or now the B5X BMW motors, and then the LS motors, I would say. Those are like the best motors of all time. The K series are just incredible motors, especially in a lightweight car like this. But coming in at 3rd place, the bronze medal for this tuner car list is going to the Subaru WRX Bug-Eye, the Bug-Eye WRXE. Now, you can find a Hawkeye and a Blob-Eye for under $10,000 as well, and it's relatively the same thing as this car. And you might honestly be better off buying one of those, but I think if you're really just on a budget, the Bug-Eye is the best option because it is the cheapest option. And they come with a 2-liter turbo flat 4, making 225 horsepower, and it is all-wheel drive, of course. It's pretty much the same thing as the Forester motors that we were talking about earlier. It's another EJ motor, but this time it was turboed from factory, so it doesn't really have as many head gasket issues as the naturally aspirated freaking Subaru motors. But coming in at 2nd place, you knew it was coming because I said it earlier in the video, so I kind of spoiled it for you. But 2nd place is the Honda Civic Si 6th generation, or the EM1 Civic Coupe. Holy moly, this is like one of my dream cars, dude. I love these cars so much. Just ever since Need for Speed Underground, where it was like available as a first car in that game, I've loved them. They come with a 1.6 liter inline 4, making 160 horsepower, and it is front wheel drive. Obviously, again, not crazy numbers out of the factory, but it's a B series, which we've already talked about before, but B series are incredible motors. And on top of that, it's light as balls. These cars are so freaking light. They're even lighter than the RSX, okay? And it's just, yes, 160 horsepower isn't anything to write home about, but these motors are insanely good motors at making super easy power out of. But I mean, if you know Mark Roden, you just knew it was going to be here somewhere. You probably were guessing it was going to be 1st place. It's the BMW 335 E9X chassis. I mean, again, it's another one of those cars where it's like, okay, yeah, reliability is questionable, but the tuning potential of these cars is through the freaking roof. They are the modern 2JZs, and I don't care what anybody says about that. They come with a 3-liter twin turbo inline 6, literally the same stats as a 2JZ, and it makes 300 horsepower. Slightly less than a 2JZ, but goes to rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. That's better than a 2JZ, and it's in a car that is light. They're relatively light. These 3 Series E92s, E90s, they are light cars. But the N54, which is what the motor's called, is a rocket ship. Downpipe and tune, you have an extra 100 horsepower. You go deeper into it, upgrade the intercooler, upgrade the turbos. You could get these things to insane numbers for really cheap. Relatively, pretty much just bolt-ons. And if you do decide to go single turbo, oh my god, they will eat that up. They are super fast cars, super good for tuning, but again, yes, the reliability is definitely questionable. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of today's video of the top 25 best tuner cars for less than $10,000. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. Let me know what other videos you'd like to see in the comment section down below. I know I haven't done a good, bad, and ugly in quite some time, or a how to build a blank in quite some time. They're coming. They're coming. Calm down. Jesus, calm down. Also, I'm really trying to get my grind on because I want to buy an M4. As you guys know, I've probably said that multiple times now, but yeah, I want to buy an M4 as my next car. And obviously those are not cheap cars. No, they are not. They're expensive cars. And so I'm trying to get that, but I'm also trying to buy a house, and it's so stressful. Stress is a killer, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you guys stay de-stressed. Do you guys have any tips on how to stay de-stressed? Also, I wanted to say this real quick. I forgot to mention it in my other video, but recently over the weekend, the past weekend, like November 8th, like that time, I saw, guess what? I went to a car museum. My sister brought me to one, thank God. And guess what I saw there? Not only did I see a Ferrari F40 and a Porsche Carrera GT and a Ford GT, those three beasts, I also saw a Lamborghini Murcielago. I want one of those cars more than I want world peace. I truly do. They are beautiful, beautiful cars. If you've never seen one in real life, you gotta go to like somewhere and see one. I went to the Saratoga Automobile Museum. They have one there. It's silver. Go there. That thing is beautiful. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. Das Vidania, and have a nice night.